Hey people, Del Larson here, welcome to the new Synthesize Sunday episode. In this beautiful spring weather, cycling a little. Okay, so getting back to the studio, this is the sound that I'm talking about now. I resampled this sound because originally the transient was a lot longer, and actually this was the only way that I was able to, shrink it. So this is the original sound coming from Operator because I use Operator for that. And I had to shrink it, so right now it sounds a lot closer to the original. Okay, so let me break down the preset. So in Operator, let me just group and disable all the effects. Now this is a very cool trick I used here. I'm going to show you very shortly. So this is the Operator sound. Pretty dumb. But I used this FM mode, this FM chain, or this algorithm, where I have Operator A and I modulate it with B, C, and D independently, which is very important. And Operator A is a user waveform which looks like this, which is modulated by a simple sine on 0.5 ratio, and I use another 0.5 ratio sine wave and another sine wave which is now on course 5. And obviously this makes a very harsh sound, something like this, which is not very pleasing. So this is why I used an envelope, a filter envelope, to filter out the subby part, the end part of the sound. Now, which is very important here is the envelope. So on Operator A, I have the full sound, as you can see on the envelopes. But on B, C, and D, I just wanted to tweak the transient. So if I shrink it, for example, you can hear the whole sound changes, and especially the transient. Okay, so I use a pitch envelope also to add more clickiness to the transient. And now the effects are coming, which are very important. I use an OTT and I cranked up the time, giving a lot more transient to it basically. An EQ8 where I chopped off the very lows and tweaked the middles, the middle highs, and chopped off the very highs. Because it is just too harsh, I didn't want that. And right now it's a lot better. Now the trick comes here. I used 2 instances of Saturns. The second one, let's start with the second one, is a simple bit reduction or something like this. It is called Destroyed. This gives that very 8-bitty kind of sound to it. And the first instance of Saturn is a tricky one because, as you can see, I use an envelope to it. So I use this big whip, and so I applied it to the drive. And as you can see, I used the drive on the envelope only on the attack. So basically, I'm saturating only the transient part, or the very, very short, very beginning part of the bass sound. I cranked up the drive level. And this is the sound that it gives now. Now the tricky part comes when I disable the EQ8. This is how it sounds. And the reason behind it, that this is the first instance of Saturn, is a very, very heavy saturation with some level added to it. So basically we are cranking up the drive and adding some huge limiting, basically compression or something like that. And this will just bring up all the elements, all the subby part of the sound. And if you don't high pass it, it will just receive too many informations and it will apply too many distortion, too many saturation to it. And this will result this sound. So this is why I had to high pass the low end and, apply some EQing on the middle basses and on the middle highs and on the very tops. And after that, this sound turns into a lot more pleasing kind of stuff. Who wants the bass? another EQ to tweak the middle bass again and the middles, and a saturator to act as a limiter basically. So this is a sound, but if I tweak only one parameter, like for example just tweaking the high pass, as you can hear, the sound is not very pleasing, so let me go back to 45. Or if I tweak only one parameter in operator, the whole sound again falls apart. Even the filter. So what you can do here is disable the EQ, or maybe the OTT, or just put the OTT after the EQ, and again enable the saturator. And for example, just apply a different Saturn. So let me go and find Saturn. And try to play around with the envelopes or with the operators in operator. Now the cool part in this, that basically you will have endless amount of different sounds basically, simply by just tweaking these knobs. And you can still play around with Saturn, like adding an envelope generator. Let's do the same, pull back the sustain, add some attack to it, and pull back the decay again. Choose the pick whip, apply some level to the drive. And if you want, you can still play around with some EQing, like chopping off the very lows. But I don't recommend it, because this will result in a very, very sensitive sound again. And this is what we wanted to avoid here. Anyway, you get the idea. So using Saturn on Rezz or 1788L kind of sounds, Saturn is a very, very essential thing to have, especially with some EQing and operator, or you can use Serum if you want. It is a lot more popular than operator, I know that, because it's a lot simpler. But basically I think operator is a lot better too. So you need to keep in mind two things: pitch bend, operators on the transient, high pass filtering, and Saturn. Okay, so these are very important if you want to create these kind of typical sounds. So I hope you enjoyed this little sound today. I was Dan Larsson, and see you guys next time. Peace.